Hi there, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday from 3 to 4. I'm your host, Mari B, and today we're hosting this show also Eastern time from 4 to 5. So if you're on the East Coast, you can also watch this show here. Today we're going to have a very special show on today, which is such a special day, September 11th. So in honor of 9/11, and for those that lost their lives, lost a loved one, and the heroes that remain, let's go ahead and take a moment of silence. Thank you. So today's going to be a little bit of a different show, and I would like to go ahead and introduce my panel today. So we've joined forces with our JV partner, Slater Slater Schulman LLP. So I would like to introduce to you guys Attorney Adam Slater and
Hello.
Attorney Jessica Smith.
Hi there.
So today, Talk to Me Tuesday, we always want to open up those lines of communication for you guys to ask any questions in regards to the topic. And today's topic is going to be about the World Trade Center. Now, if you were living, working, or volunteering and were exposed to in the exposure zone, load up those questions for these attorneys so that they can answer those questions for you guys. So Attorney Slater and Attorney Smith, tell us a little bit about yourselves so those viewers can get to know you guys a little bit better.
Hi, I'm Adam Slater, one of the senior partners at Slater Slater Schulman. We handle primarily mass torts. So in addition to pharmaceutical liability, automotive product liability, device liability, we represent over 1,000 heroes that were affected by the World Trade Center tragedy. What we do is we register people and represent their interests to maximize their values in something called the Victims' Compensation Fund. Personally, I started my career representing first responders back in 2004. That case ultimately resolved, and fast forward to 2018, it's evolved, and there is now a federal fund in place which compensates not only first responders, but also people that lived, worked, volunteered, went to school, or can prove continuous presence below Canal Street. Our clients and the fund covers primarily for us victims that are suffering from cancer, respiratory conditions, and certain gastrointestinal issues and diseases. Like I said, we represent these heroes and we help maximize their compensation.
That's awesome. So we do definitely always on the show, I always tell you, you guys are in good hands. And I just got chills hearing Attorney Adam Slater and just what he has done already, whether it's the first responders or those that have been affected. I want to turn it over to Attorney Jessica Smith. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well and the involvement in this case.
Sure. My name is Jessica Smith. I'm the senior associate here. I joined the firm about a year ago, but I've got about 6 years of mass tort experience. And I run the team over here at Slater Slater Schulman for the VCF fund. I like to think of us as the liaison between our clients and the fund, and we help them navigate this really convoluted system. We've got over 1,000 clients, like Adam said, and we zealously represent these clients and help maximize their benefits from the VCF.
Awesome. So I definitely, again, want to let you guys know, opening up those lines of communication. If you guys have any questions in regard to what they were just kind of saying about the case, a lot of us remember and take ourselves back to that day. Put yourself back on that day that it was a very traumatic and tragic moment where we had a terrorist attack on America. I want to take you back and give you a little bit about that story. There were 3 planes in which it crashed into the northern tower, the southern tower of the World Trade Center, and the Pentagon. There was a lot of lives affected. Over 2,996 were killed, including the hijackers, whether they were in the plane or they were in the building. Over 6,000 individuals were injured. Now keep in mind, these towers are 110 stories, over 10 billion in property damages. So I definitely want to turn this over to Attorney Slater and Attorney Smith. What are the effects that this caused in the surrounding area? Not only did they lose lives and lost loved ones, but you know, the airborne and the debris. Can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Well, in addition to the approximate 3,000 lives that were tragically lost on that day, this is a terrorist attack that 17 years later continues to kill and injure people daily. It's really changed the character of the city. You know, I can recall myself, I was working down below Canal Street at that time, not on the day, thankfully, but at the time, and it was really somber. The area was completely upside down, you know, physically. The economy was down. But as New Yorkers, we all came together and we, you know, banded together, and over time, I think we're strong as we were in 2001, if not stronger. But unfortunately, the effects of this really linger. You know, there's people being diagnosed with cancer, many each day, and also all the respiratory conditions. And it's a fight that the city and the people that are affected must continue daily. But like I said, it's only getting worse. Thankfully, this fund is set up. It is set to expire in 2020, and it's really important that we keep the political pressure on Congress to reauthorize this and put more money in to make sure all these heroes and victims are continually compensated.
Absolutely, and I know you just said that we're coming close to that time frame of that fund being over, and we want to definitely try to keep helping those. And you said it great, Attorney Slater, is we kind of survived this, but there's still people that are being affected. There's still people that either have a cancer or respiratory to where they're still being affected. So we're here to help, and I know you guys are in a position to where you can. Go ahead.
I mean, the awful thing is that it just came out that there are more people dying of 9/11 illnesses now, currently, than died in the towers. So these terrorists just continue to wreak havoc on us. But like I said, that we will never allow them to bring the city down or the nation. And we'll band together and we'll overcome it. But, you know, we do need to take care of those that were harmed in this tragedy.
Yes, I definitely agree. I know as a nation we came from this terrorist attack and stronger than ever. It's coast to coast that has been affected from this, mainly in the New York area, but definitely bringing awareness and educating you guys so that you guys can give us a call. That information is going to be below. So we have joined forces, D. Miller and Associates, with Slater Slater Schulman LLP. You will have the information here below. That way you guys can reach out to us. Our direct numbers will also be there as well as the address. Now, Slater Slater Schulman is in New York area in Manhattan. So if you guys have any questions or want to go visit them, that address is below. They have a full-on team. Attorney Slater or Attorney Smith, do you want to talk a little bit about your team and those lines of communication that you guys have there?
No, we are, you know, we're a firm of 10 attorneys and a very large staff to manage the high volume of cases that we have. Like I said, these, you know, it's a fund, but it's very difficult to navigate. And, you know, there's all kinds of ways to maximize the value, and that's our job. You know, that's what we do on behalf of our clients, and that's why we have the team that we do. Anything you want to add to that?
So yeah, the team is ready to go, and they're high qualified, and they know the parameters of the VCF and its policies back and forth. So we're really prepared to handle all different types of cases.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We eat, breathe, and sleep the policy, so we know how to navigate, and it is tricky. It's absolutely a very tricky process.
Yeah, so I definitely want to open up those lines of communication. I know I have a question coming up for Attorney Slater and Attorney Smith. This is Jonathan. Jonathan saying, I work at a school in the Manhattan area. I have been going to my doctor for respiratory infections ever since. Could this be related?
Absolutely. This absolutely can be related. It really does depend on where that school was located. The exposure zone is below Canal Street, which is south. It does not cover Brooklyn or Staten Island, so it really does depend in Lower Manhattan where that school is located. And you could call us and we could tell them very quickly, 1, 2, 3, whether or not that condition would be part of the exposure zone.
Right, so right now we're going to load up a map. You guys are probably seeing it on the screen right now in the areas of which this could be in relation to. But however, please give us a call, whether it's D. Miller and Associates or Slater Slater Schulman LLP. That way we can see with the zip code and the demographic, and these attorneys can definitely advise you as to if that is in the area in which this has been affected in the exposure zone. And you guys saw that map on there, is that correct?
No, we can't see it yet over here, so we're checking it out now.
We're having a little technical difficulty.
Okay, perfect. So in a second, they'll look at that, and I definitely want to open that. So Jonathan, in regards to your question.
The map came up and it's accurate.
Okay, perfect. So map is accurate. You guys can see it or play it back. That way you guys can see that map. Thank you, Jonathan, for that question. We can send you a follow-up message, direct message, after this show. That way we can make sure that we help you directly. And I want to let you guys know any of your questions can be loaded either through the Facebook Live portal, or if it's a little bit more sensitive to you, your loved ones, we want to respect that and we won't air it live. You're more than welcome to send us a direct message. Technology these days, you can give us a call, email, etc. So we want to make sure that you guys are comfortable. I'm going to move on to Thomas from Staten Island.
There's one thing I'd like to point out additionally, if it's okay. And that's in terms of time frame of when you were diagnosed. Okay, for most respiratory conditions, you had to at least be diagnosed with the condition, such as asthma, or at least have symptoms within the first 5 years of exposure. And time in the exposure zone has to be between September 11th and May 31st, 2002. With cancer cases, though, there's certain latency periods, meaning the time between somebody's exposed to the toxins and the time that the cancer develops. But, we can go back to very old cancer diagnosis because the time frame starts to run from the time the person is goes through the World Trade Center health program and their cancer is certified. So even if someone, for example, was diagnosed, with a covered cancer in 2007, we can still file their case today.
Okay, so yeah, those time zones are very important. That we can definitely follow up with Jonathan to see when they were exposed, when those respiratory infections were. As Attorney Slater mentioned, there is a time frame that they can advise you as well.
Correct.
Awesome. So I'm going to move right now. We have Thomas from Staten Island. I do have a couple comments as well, but we'll address that after this question. Thomas is saying, I have cancer. How much do you guys charge me to investigate my case? And this is a little bit of a loaded question, so we don't know what kind of cancer. Thomas, if you can load up a little bit more details, but either Attorney Slater or Attorney Smith. Thomas is asking, how much do you guys charge to investigate his case, if you guys want to?
Well, the answer to investigate the case is $0. The answer is to prosecute the case is dependent on two things. If we're able to get you compensated, our attorney's fees are 10% of the amount that you receive. For example, if you receive $500,000, our fee would be $50,000. In the event that you don't qualify for some reason, again, I don't know the particular circumstances, Thomas, of your case, but let's say for some reason you don't qualify, we charge you nothing. That's our risk that we take as a law firm in representing you. And 10% is a fee schedule that is set by the U.S. government. I'm sure if you've been involved in any other personal injury lawsuits, the fees range from 1/3 to as high as 40%. So 10% is extremely generous. We do work very hard for that 10%.
Thank you for that information. I know we've mentioned before in prior shows that the legal side, and especially personal injury, are a little different, and I believe this is a contingency basis of what Attorney Slater is stating. So Thomas, we can help you. Just give us a call. The attorneys will definitely go over the information, the contract, all of that good stuff, so that way you're knowledgeable about that. So we can investigate. Do you guys, Attorney Slater, Attorney Smith, prior to signing, do you guys need like medical records? Is that a little bit further along in the case?
The first thing we do when we're discussing a potential case with a client, first of all, is see if they meet the presence requirements, meaning were they down there for enough time, and are we able to prove it? Okay, once we determine that, then we move on to medical condition. Like I described earlier, though, each person must have their condition certified by the World Trade Center Health Program. So once we confirm presence and the person would meet the presence and exposure requirements, we register them for the World Trade Center Health Program. Once we get a certification from the health program that their condition is in fact covered, we then go ahead and file the final claim. Sometimes we need medical records. Sometimes, the diagnosis from the World Trade Center Health Program is enough, and that's a case-by-case basis.
Perfect. So for Thomas, every case is different. There is a protocol that Slater Schulman LLP takes care of, but we will definitely get you on that phone so we can get a little bit more information pertaining to your case. If you want to load it up, feel free. That way we can get a little bit more information and help you out. I want to go over some comments that we have. We have LaQuisha Cook commented, "Hi everyone." Chastity has said hello. I have Daisy, and Attorney Darren Miller gave us a thumbs up. So we do have good interaction. We also want to welcome your comments. We love to hear the comments of even the good job that these attorneys, our panel attorney Adam Slater and attorney Jessica Smith, are doing. Those are always welcome. So I'm going to move on right now. I have Christina on the queue. Christina is sending us her question. "I have been diagnosed with lung cancer. How long will it take for us to get paid? I'm having problems paying for my medication, and this can really help me."
Okay, so this question, again, is case by case and is largely dependent on how long it takes for a person to get certified by the World Trade Center Health Program, which is out of the law firm's hands, which is out of our hands. Right now, that's running on a minimum of 6 months to get that certification. And currently, with the Victims' Compensation Fund, it's about 18 months. That being said, the special master who administers the settlement fund has made it one of her prerogatives. And she said one of the most important things she wants to accomplish to make the system go soup to nuts of 1 year. Which, again, all these sound like a long time, but if you've ever been involved in other litigation, complex litigation, even a routine car accident case, this time frame is much quicker.
Right, and I know you mentioned a little earlier, Attorney Slater, that the fund is looking at either expiring or ending at 2020. Is that correct?
Well, right now it's set to expire in December, I forget the date, but December 2020. There's already talks that a reauthorization bill is going to be introduced in Congress within the next month or two to reauthorize that, which, like I said, is the only way to ensure that these heroes continue to be compensated. And like I also said, there are new people being diagnosed daily, many people being diagnosed daily. So I believe this is more than necessary, and Congress owes it to these people. That did nothing more than be down there. And one of the reasons this fund is established is because the government essentially assured everybody that the air quality was fine when it wasn't.
So that's great information. For the clients that we do have, whether it's D. Miller and Associates, Slater Slater Schulman, we join forces. We will let you know those updates. So as you know of those things that come up, Attorney Adam Slater, we note and let our clients know of those changes that happen. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So any of you guys that might have questions and those things that might come up here in the next month, we will advise those clients that we do have and let you guys know of those updates so that way you guys are aware of it as well. So let's talk a little bit about the towers and what the towers are now, the aftermath. So the two towers now, it's now called the 9/11 Memorial Museum, which is kind of like two waterfalls going into what used to be the Ground Zero. Very impactful. I've seen several pictures. I actually went to the Ground Zero. You guys will see a picture here on the screen that kind of depicts that. Very impactful. Do you guys, Attorney Adam Slater and Jessica Smith, do you guys want to talk a little bit about that Memorial Museum since you guys are in the area?
Absolutely. It's a beautiful sight to see. The waterfalls circulate the perimeter of each tower. They're diagonal from one another with the names of each of the victims written on the cement as you walk around the perimeters. It's really lovely. The museum is also nearby, which is, it's hard to walk through, but it's certainly worth your while if you're down in Lower Manhattan. And it's truly a beautiful sight to see. I know I've gone several times with my family. I know that Adam's gone as well. And it's a touching memorial service. And if you go to see the Freedom Tower as well, which is also nearby, you could go to the top of it and you could see all of Manhattan, which is very special.
Wow, that is very special. I know I saw the pictures are on the screen right now. You guys see the names. I'm sure today there's probably roses all over that perimeter on such a special day and in such an honor of 9/11. Very impactful just from the pictures. I can just imagine being there in person, how breathtaking that may be. Condolences to all of those that have lost a loved one or even a hero in the fight of this terrorist attack. If you guys are in the New York area, just like Attorney Jessica Smith mentioned, she recommends that you take a look at this and just kind of just soak it all in. That happened just like Attorney Adam Slater stated 17 years ago. 17 years today. Such a impactful movement. We've all came together as a nation. But we're still here, even feeling a little bit of that aftermath. And I know, Attorney Adam Slater, you were stating about how it's still affected lives and a lot of lives that are still being lost from cancer and stuff like that. I would love to know what that new number is because I know the statistics report 2,996, a little bit under 3,000, but it sounds like that number is probably already way higher than that.
Well, in totality, there's been over 10,000 claims that have been processed and approved for the Victims' Compensation Fund. I don't have the breakdown with me right now of cancers, but it is very high. And the cancers were, more recently allowed, so it's going to be less than the respiratory conditions. However, I anticipate going forward that cancers are going to wind up overtaking the respiratory conditions because of the way the latency works. People are being diagnosed every day. And I do believe once, and I say once because I'm hopeful that it will be reauthorized. Once the reauthorization is passed, and if you had a crystal ball and you looked into the future, the amount of cancers, unfortunately, are going to overtake everything else.
Yeah, that number you just gave me over 10,000. That is a crazy number. What do you recommend, Attorney Adam Slater? Do you recommend that if people were in that area during that time frame, that they just take that measure and go get checked just to see if they have some type of cancer, just being proactive? What's the advice that you would give on such a thing in that area?
Well, don't ignore symptoms, but also keep in mind that if you have cancer, even if you're in remission, or if it's God forbid a cancer that's still affecting you, even if the diagnosis was many, many years ago, please do not hesitate and apply for compensation, because many people don't realize that they are entitled to compensation, especially people that are not first responders. Remember, even if somebody was diagnosed with cancer, for example, 10 years ago, they are still eligible for this fund. Even if they've been in remission and it's, for 10 years, they can still get compensation. So if you're suffering, certainly don't wait. If you think you have symptoms, don't delay going to the doctor. But also, if you've suffered in the past and are in remission, you are still entitled to full compensation. And do not hesitate to reach out. It costs you nothing to reach out to my law firm or any law firm that handles this, and we will guide you whether you meet the requirements.
Well said, well said. Attorney Adam Slater just said that we will guide you, and that is, we like to be there for our clients, potential clients, and really educate. But definitely, if you or a loved one were in that zone, I know we'll probably load that map up here in a little bit. If you're in that zone, if you have any symptoms, whether it's 10 years ago, just like Attorney Adam Slater stated, 17 years ago, please don't ignore those symptoms. Please go get checked and give us a call. Those phone numbers are below. We will guide you on what your next steps are. So I'm going to go ahead. I have a comment here. I'm going to skip the comment right now. So I'm going to go on to the question. This is Arnold. Arnold is saying, based on your experience, what type of cancers have been diagnosed?
Well, there's over 70 cancers that are covered by the fund, but we see a high prevalence of blood and bone cancers. We see a prevalence of lung cancers. We see a lot of thyroid cancer. We see a lot of bladder cancer. Quite frankly, with over 1,000 clients, we see a lot of every type of cancer. But the four that I just mentioned, I would say, are the most prevalent. We're seeing a very high incidence, and the New York Post just did a write-up on it, on male breast cancer. The other day, last week, we came into contact with a client that has mesothelioma, which is a horrible condition. And by the way, with the latency period of that, I predict in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a much higher incidence of that. But again, if you have any type of cancer, it costs you nothing to reach out to us, and we will help you in determining whether your cancer is covered by the fund.
Yeah, I mean, you just named a lot right there. I was thinking, to be quite honest with you, Attorney Adam Slater, that it was lung cancer, respiratory, that in that regards, but that sounds like a lot of cancer qualifications. Is there one cancer that does not qualify that you have seen come across your desk?
We actually, to date, and knock on wood, have not gotten any denials from the World Trade Center Health Program.
Okay. Well, Arnold, there's that, and we'll reach out to
and
you.
Keep in mind, even skin cancer and prostate cancer qualify.
So it really constitutes pretty much any type, unless you would advise, and if you get that across your desk, if there's a certain type, then you'll literally let the client know.
Right, and it would be the very small minority of cases that do not qualify based on cancer diagnosis, type of cancer.
Perfect. So, Arnold, we will definitely reach out to you directly on how we can help you if there's any other additional questions that you may have. I do have another question coming from NYC Tina. This is, what is the WTC Health Program? WTC standing for World Trade Center. I know you've talked a little bit briefly about that, Attorney Adam Slater, but what is the WTC Health Program?
So the World Trade Center Health Program is twofold. The first is that it provides treatment and benefits to those affected. So a lot of the NYPD first responders and the FDNY will go there for benefits and also receive pharmacy prescription cards for discounts. And so that's one fold. And the aspect of it that we cover is through the Victims' Compensation Fund. And what that means is once a client has proved presence, we move on to the next stage, which is getting that client certified with the World Trade Center Health Organization. There are many facilities all over Manhattan and all across the United States, in fact, that you can go to, and they will certify your condition. Basically, a doctor that's certified will sit down with you, review your medical records, just talk to you. I think they conduct several tests,
And then they send a certification to the VCF saying that, yes, this person does have this cancer or this respiratory disease. And once we get that certification, we could apply to the fund.
Wow, very informative. Thank you so much for that, Attorney Jessica Smith. So NYC Tina, it is a lot. Attorney Jessica Smith just explained it's kind of a twofold, but what I keep hearing is just proving presence. So that's probably your number one. Is that correct, Attorney Slater or Smith?
Proving presence, did you say?
Correct.
Yes, that's step one, proving presence for the requisite amount of time. Once we do that, we move on, to the medical conditions.
Perfect. So I know the Slater Slater Schulman LLP team will definitely advise you on all of those parameters, but number one is proving presence. So I'm going to talk a little bit and turn it over a little bit for what that Freedom Tower is. And I'll have Attorney Slater and Attorney Smith talk a little bit about that as well. But it is a tower that went up after the World Trade Center next to the memorial. It's called One World Trade Center. That picture is up here. It is taller than the World Trade Center, 104 stories. I think it measures up to 17,000 feet in the air, and it's scheduled to be the sixth tallest building in the world. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about this Freedom Tower? I haven't had the pleasure of seeing it, but you guys, since you're in the area, you could talk a little bit more about the Freedom Tower.
I think the Freedom Tower really represents the way New York has come back from this attack. When the attacks happened in 2001, I can remember it like yesterday. The towers toppled. It was horrible. Like I said, the area was in complete disarray. It took a while to clean it up. Understandably, a lot of debris. The city was in shatters, not just physically, but also the mood. However, over time, they cleaned the area up and erected this beautiful tower. I mean, it is just breathtaking to look at. And I really think that symbolizes the way New York City and the country as a whole rebounded from these absolutely despicable terror attacks. And it also shows our resolve as a country.
Yes, New York City strong. So I know as a nation we came back and just really supported this 17 years ago, but this Freedom Tower, I've seen pictures again, haven't seen it with my own two eyes. That's my next goal here. But yes, it really, just like you stated, it just really depicts how strong the city of New York City came together, and now this beautiful Freedom Tower. So if you guys also have the chance, if you're in the area, don't forget to visit Slater Slater Schulman LLP, but also that Freedom Tower. In this special day, I'm pretty sure there's just a lot of people around those areas on this day that happened 17 years ago. So I want to go ahead and go on to Deborah, has been patiently waiting. Deborah is asking, how far, and I don't know if you know this, Attorney Adam Slater, Attorney Jessica Smith, how far did the dust travel from the collapsed towers?
That's a tough question to answer. And I think that when formulating this fund, they came up with the hard line of Canal Street, meaning that it traveled to Canal Street. Does that mean it didn't travel further? I think that the zone should be more, because we get calls all the time, unfortunately, of people that were unable to help, and that's because they lived above Canal Street. It's kind of an arbitrary line. Sometimes we'll get people a few feet above the exposure zone. That being said, I can't give you a scientific exact answer of how far the dust traveled, but if you're familiar with New York City, going all the way to Canal Street is far. I mean, if you were down there at the time and saw how much debris was in the air and the amount of debris, you would understand it's hard to conceptualize without actually seeing it.
Yeah, and do you foresee, Attorney Slater, that demographic changing? Because, I mean, what if there was like a gust of wind or anything like that? Of course, the airborne, it could travel. So do you foresee, I mean, it's already been 17 years, and any of that demographic changing here in the near future based on your experience?
I'm sorry, when you mean demographic, what are you referring to?
You mentioned that the hard line is Canal Street. Do you ever foresee it probably?
Oh, the geographic area.
Yeah.
I don't really foresee them changing that. I haven't seen any proposals. It would be great if they did, but right now the real fight is just to get the bill reauthorized to keep covering the people where it is confined to. I believe personally it should be opened up well beyond Canal Street, and the requirement should be a little looser. That being said, if somebody is in the zone, they will be compensated.
Well, that's good information. I keep telling you guys are in great hands. Slater Schulman LLP, along with other attorneys, are really doing their best to get any of those that have been affected the compensation from that fund and all that good stuff. They're working really, really hard. So I want to thank you guys for that as well. So I'm going to move on to Travis. Travis is asking, how long did the dust from the World Trade Center linger in the air? This is all kind of going hand in hand with what we're talking about. And I don't know if you know this information, Attorney Slater or Smith, but how long did the dust from the World Trade Center linger in the air?
Again, based on the parameters of the fund, and they had to make a hard cutoff at some point, approximately 9 months. They made the cutoff the last day of May 2002. So you had to be in the exposure zone from September 11, 2001 through May 2002. That being said, again, they had to make the cutoff somewhere. Does that mean that somebody on June 1st wasn't exposed? I don't think so. Of course, over time, the potency of the debris lessens and becomes less toxic. But certainly if somebody was exposed in that first 9 months, there's no question that it's causing their illness.
For sure. And those might be, those are a little bit tough questions because I know, knowing and tracking how long it's been lingering in the air, but we can follow up with you, Travis, and see if it's something that you were in the area or a loved one were in the area, so we can definitely help. We're going to have time for maybe one or two more questions. I want to keep opening up those lines of communication for those of you guys that are watching. I want to thank you guys for watching and sharing the show. Sharing is very important because the more you share, the more we get to affect more lives and help others as well that are also experiencing this type of either questions or topic, World Trade Center today. So moving on to Adam. Adam is asking you guys, how long after the attack were people showing symptoms?
People were showing symptoms almost immediately. A lot of respiratory diseases came within the first 5 years, and in fact, it's one of the requirements that some of these respiratory diseases manifest within the first 5 years. However, it took the cancers a lot longer to manifest in these people, in these victims. There are certain latency requirements, meaning that if a cancer manifested within a year after 9/11, that may not be compensated because that might mean that that cancer was already forming within that person already. However, people definitely, they were showing symptoms of respiratory, like I said, early on, but it went all the way to now. People are just starting to manifest symptoms now from 9/11. So that question, again, is probably another challenging one because they manifested immediately and they're still manifesting today. So you got 17 years of time that it could potentially take for these symptoms to manifest. So,
yeah, you're mentioning right now there's a lot of immediate.
One asterisk on the cancer cases. Somebody was diagnosed with a blood and bone cancer, the latency is not much faster.
But other than that, we're talking a couple of years.
Yeah, so for sure, Adam, how long after people are showing symptoms? It sounds like, based on the attorney's experience, there's immediate and there's also delayed, a little bit delayed as far as the cancer. That's internal. I mean, I could just imagine even years after and then developing some type of cancer if your body can't fight it. So
it's really case specific. I mean, there's people developing cancers today as we sit here right now.
what in other people will develop in 5 years. It just really depends on the type of cancer, the person, the amount of exposure they had. It's too hard to say, blanketly for every person it takes X amount of time. It's really a case-by-case analysis.
Yes, that's great information. Every case is different, and you nailed it right there, Attorney Adam Slater. Every case is different, just depending on, like you said, how much they were exposed, where they were at, how involved they were. All of that has a lot to do with it. If you guys have any other questions, I want to welcome those questions. In the meantime, I want to go ahead and turn this over to Attorney Adam Slater and Attorney Jessica Smith. Do you guys have any closing statements or any closing quotes or thoughts that you want to leave our viewers watching today in honor of 9/11?
Just that we honor all of the victims, of course, the victims that perished on the day, and all of the victims that are suffering today and unfortunately will continue to suffer in the future. If you think that there's even a chance you may qualify, don't waste any time. Reach out to us or another firm handling these cases immediately, because if the reauthorization does not go through, there's a chance you won't be able to be compensated. So really don't waste time. You would only be hurting yourself. Again, even if you think that you have a case, contact us. We'll walk you through it. We'll guide you. We'll tell you if you don't have a case, we won't be able to help you. But more often than not, we get people contacting us thinking they don't have a case, and they do. So my message would be, don't delay.
Thank you so much for that, Attorney Adam Slater. Attorney Jessica Smith, do you have any closing statements as well for our viewers that are watching currently right now?
Sure. I would just like to say thank you to all of those that served that day and that continue to serve for our country. We have clients that come in every day that thank us for helping them, maneuver through this system. But really, the thanks should go out to them for what they did that day and for what they've experienced now. We have a lot of first responder clients. We have a lot of people that just, have nursing backgrounds, have EMT backgrounds who went and just did something that day. There's no record of it because they didn't write it down anywhere. And we're helping these people maneuver this very convoluted system. But really, if I got a chance to take a second, I just would want to thank those people.
Thank you, Attorney Jessica Smith. I also want to thank Slater Slater Schulman LLP for being on the show today, giving us their expertise about this topic, the World Trade Center, on this special day, 9/11. And just like Attorney Adam Slater said, don't wait. If you guys have any symptoms or have any questions, please make sure you call an attorney, a law firm. You can call D. Miller & Associates. We have joint ventured with Slater Slater Schulman LLP, and we'll get you in the right hands to make sure that we help you guys. I want to thank all of you guys for watching the show, on this special day in honor of 9/11. I want to send my condolences to all of those that lost their lives, lost a loved one, and even those heroes that went out and even lost their lives, and those that are still remaining. All of those that fought and are New York City strong, nation strong. Thank you so much for this special day on Talk to Me Tuesday. Until next time.